Yes. O Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtha Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai. So we are on the 16th verse. We completed up to 16th verse last week, and the 16th verse was where Krishna is now going to opening up the concept of karma again. In the third chapter also Krishna was talking about karma, but then he took a slight detour. Arjun was asking him some questions, and then so Krishna took a detour. So again now he'll start talking about karma, having given answers to Arjun's question. And so in the last week we read about how Krishna is, telling about himself, that who he is, Janma Karma Cha Vidya. We read that part, that his activities and birth is transcendental. And then we read about the Chaturvarnyam, that how the four classes of the society have been created by Krishna, but they are not on the basis of birth as they are practiced in India right now, but they are more according to the guna and karma. So the guna is character, karma is competence. That's the way we define the where the person lies in this social strata. And Krishna has advised that we should not try to take up somebody else's varna, because we might have competence, we can gain the competence, but then we might not have the character. We talked about an example of a doctor, that a doctor might get competence, might learn all the skills needed for being a doctor, but if he doesn't have the character, he will not be able to do justice to that service. So, a doctor doing treating patients, but also if he starts stealing their organs, not a good guna. So yes, so we read about the guna part. And then many people have been liberated by following this path. Krishna explained that. So we did 16, Krishna mentioning bringing the karma aspect back in again, saying that even wise don't know what is karma and akarma. But then Krishna was making a profound promise to Arjun that by getting this knowledge that I'm giving you, you will be freed from all the misfortune of the karmic bondage, not just coming from this war, but all the karmic bondage. Right? So from a literal perspective, karma means activity and akarma means inactivity. But even a child can understand that, whether somebody is active or inactive. But here, Krishna is using them in a philosophical sense. And understanding which work begets reaction and which does not, it's not easy. It's a conundrum that can vex even scholars. So Krishna is going to explain this further, that the reaction results from motivation, not from the action per se. When we work selflessly for Krishna's pleasure, he, by his inconceivable omnipotence, frees us from all reactions and bestows liberation upon us. Right? So this is Gita's full blessing. It is not, but then an intellectual cannot relish this blessing. Only committed lovers of Krishna who shape their heart and mold their lives accordingly. That's up to what we had done last week. So let's get going from the 17th verse. So now here Krishna is going to continue his discussion with karma. So the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Krishna is using three words here: karmana, okay, and karmano, and other one he's using is akarmana. Sorry, vikarmana here, and then akarmana. So akarmana, akarmano, vikarmana, and akarmana. These are the three words that Krishna is using in this phrase. So, and then furthermore, Krishna is saying that it's gahana karmano gati. So gahana means very difficult, karmano of work, gati. So to understand them is very difficult. It's almost, working of karma is almost incomprehensible to us. Gahan means dark, impenetrable. And so that's what Krishna is mentioning here. And Krishna talks about, Prabhupada talks about these three things in Sri Upanishad. So that I just wanted to bring this out here so that we have the right definition of these three words. Would someone like to read this section from Sri Upanishad verse 2?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Actions that are performed in terms of one's prescribed duties, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures, are called karma. Actions that free one from the cycle of birth and death are called akarma. And actions that are performed through the misuse of one's freedom and that direct one to the lower life forms are called vikarma. Of these three types of action, that which frees one from the bondage to karma is performed by intelligent men. Ordinary men wish to perform good work in order to be recognized and achieve some higher statuses of life in this world or in heaven. But more advanced men want to be free altogether from the actions and reactions of work. Intelligent men well know that both good and bad work equally bind one to the material miseries. Consequently, they seek that work which will free them from the reactions of both good and bad work.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so Prabhupada is giving the definition. So when we follow our prescribed duties, then we are karma. And if you're misusing misusing our freedom, that's vikarma. And then that frees us from the cycle of birth and death is called akarma. So there's this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam which tells us, the four things, right? Which we have been, which are our regulatory principles that Prabhupada has given us. So where is that coming from? They're coming from Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the four places where Kali was asked to stay. If you know the story from Srimad Bhagavatam, that when Maharaj Parikshit saw that somebody was beating a cow, he became very angry and he wanted to kill that person. The person was personified Kali Yuga. So Maharaj Parikshit asked him to leave his kingdom. But then the whole world was his kingdom. So Kali asked him, where can I stay then? So Maharaj Parikshit told him that you can stay in these four places: gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter. So these four, that is why Prabhupada gave us these four regulations. I think I have it somewhere. Yes. So the gambling, drinking, prostitution, animal slaughter, because they break the basic principles of religiosity. So the four pillars of religiosity are truthfulness, austerity, cleanliness, and mercy. And these actions, they break those principles. So these are practically, this is what vikarma means. Say, misusing our freedom. When we go down the path of any of these four activities, we are misusing our freedom. And that is why, to keep our bhakti moving, progressing, and not falling off the path, we have to not break these principles. And that is why Prabhupada gave us the 4 regulatory principles, which correspond to each one of them. No gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no meat eating, including fish, fish and eggs. So those 4 things have been given by Prabhupada to us. So now this whole concept of karma is very complex. So I thought it's worthwhile to spend some time on the meaning of this word karma. What does it mean? Okay. So karma, in a stricter scriptural sense, primarily means the action done in accordance with one's prescribed duties, as Prabhupada is telling us. In contrast, there is vikarma, viruddha rupena karma. So it's the opposite of karma. So vikarma takes one down to the lower forms of life. This Kali Yuga is full of vikarma. And the 4 religious activities we just saw, they lead to severe karmic reactions, which come both in the present life as well as in the future life. Right? So, for example, illicit sex leads to a variety of diseases. Meat eating leads to heart problems, cancers, and other diseases. And it causes, we lose compassion for other living entities when we are practically eating them. Gambling, it causes people to lose their senses, right? Because you're so much thinking about yourself. Gambling is all about me. I want to earn money. So eventually we lose everything in this because we lose our senses in the process of gambling. Intoxication, people think it's enjoyable. It's actually self-torture, which is something that starts with cheers, often leads to cheerless repercussions. We make a big fool of ourselves when we intoxicate. So different from karma and vikarma, there is akarma, right? So akarma means, it doesn't mean inactivity, but activity that brings no reaction. That's something also to keep in mind. So in this context, there's a story about Dhritarashtra that, when Dhritarashtra's 100 sons died, he asked Krishna that, why did I have to suffer? Why did I have to go through all this? And Krishna tells him that 50 lifetime ago, you had killed 100 children. Was that of an animal species? I don't remember. I think it was a snake or something. He had killed 100 children, 100 children of an animal species of somebody. So he says now he had to pay back for that. So that is why he had to suffer the death of his 100 sons. But then Dhritarashtra really became confused. He said, this is so ridiculous. Why do I have to wait for 50 lifetimes? Why didn't you punish me in my last 49 lives? Krishna says, Kahano karmano gati. You had to develop that much piety to get 100 sons. So that's how complex it is. That's how complex the whole process of this karma concept is. Right? And another aspect of karma is sometimes people think that, another example is, let me go with an example. So with Vidur in Mahabharata, Vidur used to explain to Dhritarashtra that, because whenever anybody would explain to Dhritarashtra that, why are you doing all this, to ask your sons to stop, he would say, what can I do? This is destined for them. This has been predefined by destiny. But then Vidura would explain to Dhritarashtra that destiny determines the consequences of our action, not our actions themselves. Right? It means that we are not programmed like robots. We have free will. Our past karma does determine what will happen in our life. What will happen in our life, but it does not determine how we will react to it. That's the way to understand it. Right? So somebody might say that, oh, I'm suffering because of my karma. Yeah, you could be suffering because of your karma, but that doesn't mean you cannot do anything about it. That's, as I was saying, it is determining the, so yes, destiny is determining the consequences of our action. That I did something and I got a, let's say, not a strong body in this life, right? But then it doesn't mean that I have to have this weak body. I could work on improving the strength of this body. Right? With respect to destiny, there are two schools of thoughts throughout this world. It's not just India or any Eastern part. One is called Karmavad. So Karmavad means that by my karma, I'll be successful. If I just work hard enough and smart enough, then I'll become the next Bill Gates. By my sweat and my muscles, I will succeed. That's called Karmavad. But then if we look at the reality of life, so many people work hard, but not all of them are successful. Therefore, Karmavad, the idea that everything depends on my actions, it brings frustration. And people who follow this doctrine, they tend to develop inferiority complex because they say, oh, I didn't do a good job, because they feel that it's my responsibility. So Karmavad leads to frustration, because in reality, it is not our action alone that determines results. If we are honest enough, we'll admit that there are times in life when we worked really hard, but we didn't get the results we were looking for. Sometimes due to our past karma, we can get results that even though we didn't work hard, we still can get results. Okay. So that's one aspect of destiny. The other aspect is Daivavad. Daiva means that everything is determined by destiny. I cannot do anything. That's another concept of it. It's called fatalism. It's a concept that's been pervasive for many, many thousands of years. People's philosophers have written about it. Daivavad, fatalism. So Dhritarashtra was using Daivavad to justify his inactions when Duryodhana was doing atrocities on the Pandavas. Always anybody would explain to him, he'd say, oh, it's the will of destiny. Who am I? I'm a tiny mortal. How can I stop? And so many Western thinkers, and even not just Westerns, even Indian thinkers have misunderstood the Vedic philosophy. They think that the Vedic philosophy is Daivavad, fatalistic. Everything is supposed to be predestined. And so there is no sense of purposeful activity. We cannot do that. But that's not the truth. The Vedic philosophy actually takes into account both of them, Karmavad and Daivavad. Right? If people from India were just believing in destiny, they would have been very lazy. But Indians are not at all lazy, as we all know. Actually, somebody wrote Mahabharata. It's 110,000 verses, which is it's practically bigger than the world's next two poems. There are two next Odyssey. There's a poem Odyssey and Iliad. You might have read it. And those two poems combined, Mahabharata is bigger than both of those two combined together. So the Vedic philosophy is not Daivavad, and neither is it Karmavad, that we just do our action and we'll get all our results. It's a combination of them. So what does it mean? Is that the results of our actions are determined both by our actions of this life and the reactions of actions of our past life. So it's both the aspects. We have a Daivavad concept, that there is a higher energy, higher power that's taking care of my actions. And then also my actions are also of value. For example, a farmer, he will sow the seeds and plow the field. But then whether there'll be sufficient rain or not, that's Daiva. That's higher energies that are going to define it. So similarly, even if we have sufficient rains, but if the sowing of the seeds and plowing the field has not been done properly, then also it's incomplete. So understanding this concept that it's not just our karma that are making an effect, but it's also Daiva, there is higher powers that are involved. That is why Krishna is saying karmana gahino gati. Oh, sorry, yeah, it's complex because if I feel that only I am doing it, that's also an imperfect understanding. And if I say that, oh, destiny is defining my results in karma, that's also not appropriate. That is why Krishna says this is karmano ghano karmano gati. It's not easy to understand that. It's very, very complex. So, and this whole knowledge of karma, sometimes, okay, let me just see. I think I had a slide, one more slide somewhere. Give me a second. Yes, okay. So, just to be sure, the word karma can be used in different ways, right? So, karma means it can be action. Karma is sometimes said as, karma is action, like work we do. But then karma is also sometimes used for reaction. Somebody can say that I'm suffering because of my karma, and it can also be used as a system of action reaction. Like somebody can say, nobody can escape karma. So it's a system of action reaction. And then karma could also mean one type of action, that do good karma, like it's pious actions. And then similarly, akarma, the word akarma can also mean two things. It can mean inaction, akarma, there is no action, no activity. But then it can also mean that action that produces no results. So, so there can be different meanings. I just wanted to bring this out so that we don't get confused by the use of the words karma and akarma. And so as I was saying, right, so the benefits of knowledge of karma is there are many benefits, right? So one is the social aspect. Let's look at a social aspect. Only when we understand karma will the call to morality have any meaning to it. Somebody, if let's say you go to a city where they say that there is no police force in the city, please follow the laws. Nobody's going to follow the laws. Right? People think, but so our societies have become somewhat like that. People think that if I'm just clever enough, if I'm influential enough, that I can surpass the law. So if we want morality in the society, we need to educate people to understand the law of karma. Right? Then that's why it is said that fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Right? Just like for a child, fear of father is the main impetus for the child to study or to behave properly. Right? So initially there has to be some sense of karma. There has to be some sense that if you do wrong, you'll be punished for it. So even from a social perspective, the concept of karma is very valuable. But if there is no understanding of the laws of karma and fear of the karmic reactions, most people will have no impetus to do good karma. And that's what's happening in today's society. People have lost that concept. That is why they are, doing vikarma, that is actions that are not conducive with their prescribed duties or their status in the society. Human beings are acting worse than animals nowadays. And at individual level also, karma is of value for us. It helps us make sense of our present condition and gives us strength to face suffering. Right? That's another aspect. That's how a law of karma, knowing the law of karma, understanding them helps us. So a person without spiritual knowledge is like somebody has been blindfolded and he's being beaten from top, bottom, left, right, and he doesn't know where the next blow is going to come from. And then people start asking these questions: why me? Why now? Why this? This why question, which can never have an answer, becomes a source of misery in our lives because we don't understand the concept of karma. Right? When we well versed with the science of karma, it's like a blindfold that has been removed. It helps us make sense of our suffering and face it with calmness. Right? That's something to understand that way. That what what I'm going through right now is just a result of my past karma. Okay, so just let me endure it, and it'll be over. Right? There is a story of I might have mentioned here of Birbal, right? Somebody or the king asks him that, can you? Is there some way that when somebody hears that a happy man becomes sad and a sad man becomes happy? And he went all over his kingdom and Birbal, and then he found this ring on which had been engraved that this too shall pass. So that makes a happy person sad and a sad person happy. So when we get that concept that this is all something I'm suffering because of my karma, let's just endure it. It'll get over. Similarly, so that's a way of kind of just enduring it, to build that concept of toleration that Krishna talks about across Bhagavad Gita. So then we can suffer it, understanding that it's my karma, and face it with calmness. And furthermore, it also strengthens us for our future. I can prepare my future with confidence, right? What it means is that it doesn't just mean that I will be knowing karma, I'll be free from suffering. No, that's never going to happen. The suffering will always be there. But we become like a sick patient who has understood what the disease is and how to cure it. The pain will still be there, but it's going to decrease. But for a person who doesn't know the cure, his pain is just going to keep on increasing. And on top of that, he'll just keep feeling helpless and dejected. But a knowledgeable person sooner or later knows that sooner or later all the suffering will come to an end. So it gives us confidence for the future also. And and also now, so yes, so there are social and individual benefits of dealing with karma. One thing when it comes to individuals, and I mentioned that it helps us understand why we are suffering and gives us confidence. We never use this concept of karma for others. Just remember that. Sometimes what happens is that we become we become what do you call that? We become hard-hearted, right? Sometimes we may say that, oh, this person is suffering because of his karma. Right? Let's say there is some gruesome crime has been committed in the society, and then we just become callous and say, oh, this person is suffering because of his karma. No, we should not do that. Look at karma just as a way for us to, first of all, be within the limits that the society has been set for me, right? So performing my duties, understanding that there is a karmic reaction, I should perform my duties in the right way, not move towards vikarma. So it's just like very much like when you go for bowling, you have those guardrails that you can put up so that your ball just doesn't go out of the game. So similarly, understanding the concept of karma is very much like guardrail for us, but it's not meant to do a post-mortem for somebody else. Okay. So that's I just want to highlight that. So if you see somebody else suffering, you shouldn't become, or I shouldn't become callous that thinking that, oh, this person is suffering because of his karma, I don't have to worry about it, or I'm not affected by his or her suffering. So that's the way to look at karma. So use it for our own prognosis. What is likely to happen in the future, take corrective measures, and if something is happening to me right now, I'm suffering, I just can convince myself that this is just because of my past karma. So remember, just this thing I wanted to bring out. Don't use karma, as I'm saying, for the post-mortem of other people's. Many people, like there was a brutal rape in India many years ago. You might have heard of it. So if I just say that, oh, she suffered because of her karma, but that's not the way to look at it, right? Krishna has given us free will and abilities, and so we should be sympathetic and keep that basic human dignity. Right? So a mother doesn't stop caring for a child thinking he's suffering because of the past karma. Right? Philosophy has its importance, it has its purpose. Purpose is to enhance our capacity to understand and live lives fully, to attain our full potential. But then it doesn't mean that if I have the knowledge, let's say, I have this knowledge that I'm not this body, but I'm a soul. But that doesn't mean I start neglecting my body. But what can benefit me is that I can become free from the fear that I will die on a bodily level. So philosophy should expand our knowledge. It should not make us hard-hearted. I just want to bring this out. So the concept of karma that Krishna is giving, we should not use it for judging other people. We should just use it as a prognosis to understand why I am suffering, why, how I can improve, how I can, improve my life further, obviously by not doing bad karma, so I can improve my future. So just for a prognosis for ourselves, don't try to use it for a post-mortem of other people and become hard-hearted. That is not the purpose of karma. This is 18. Okay. So yes, so that's an important aspect of karma that I just wanted to bring out this because it's a very important aspect of Bhagavad Gita, karma, and it's something that we should understand it, because Prabhupada in the purport also mentions this. Let's see, where is the purport? Yes, Prabhupada says one has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action, reaction, and perverted action, because it is a very difficult subject matter. So Prabhupada is saying we have to apply this transcendental knowledge, right? So whenever we are doing any activity, we have to ask this question: is this activity karma? Is it vikarma? Is it akarma? Right? In our day-to-day life also, we always ask this question, whether this activity is lawful or not. Whether if I cross if I speed my car through on a red light, is it lawful or not? It is not. So we ask this question. Why not ask this question in the spiritual life also? So that's what it means to apply transcendental knowledge. To ask this question, is it the right activity? Should I be doing it? But in a bigger sense, beyond that, is that we also have to understand that it's not like, okay, if I chant 16 rounds for 40 years, I have authority to get access into Golok Vrindavan, the spiritual world. No, it doesn't work that way. It cannot be waived off. It's such an, now I've been doing it for so many long, so now all my karma have been waived off and I will go back home. No, it doesn't work that way. There is as I was saying, there is karma-vad and there is daiva-vad. I also put in my efforts. I put in my efforts and then I rely on Krishna's mercy. Right? Karmana daiva netrena deha jantur upapatte. Second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam brings out this verse, says that karmana daiva netrena. That according to daiva means superior netrena, superior vision. I get my next bodies. Deha jantur upapatte. So for us, practicing devotion, we have to practice Radha Dasyam, servitorship to Radharani, which is available to us through Guru Parampara. That's the way we move towards all our karma. We should not, it's not like we become fanatical about, oh, what is this a right karma? Is this a wrong karma? We should have that understanding. We should apply that knowledge. But as I was saying, don't become fanatic about it. That, oh, this person is suffering because of karma. This person is not his body. Why is he thinking so much about it? And we become skeptic and we become hard-hearted. We not do that. We just do our duty and we depend on Guru Parampara and we get Krishna's mercy through that path. As we all know, at the time of Diksha, our past bad karma is nullified. The Guru vouches on our behalf, on the behalf of the disciple, and he says, okay, now Krishna, please take away his karma, because now he's surrendering to me. So Krishna waives off that. But that doesn't mean we cannot accumulate karma after that. So we also have to be cautious after that. There's a saying in Bible which says what's that? The mills of God grind slow, but they grind excessively fine, exceedingly fine. So God knows best which reaction has to be given at what time and what conditions. So some reactions might come in this lifetime, some in the next, some in the distant future lifetime. So Krishna is saying the whole system of karma is very complex, but essentially understand these three things. Certain actions produce good reactions, certain bring bad reactions, and certain bring no material reactions. So understand that way. And rely on Krishna for everything. Dependence on Krishna. So this knowledge of this concept of karma should increase our dependence on karma. And then at the same time, it should motivate us to do our duties to the best of our capacity. There was once a farmer in a village, and he had a horse of a very good breed, and he had a son. One day the horse ran away into the wilderness, and all the villagers gathered towards the farmer, and they were lamenting, "Oh, you had just one horse, he ran away, now he was the source of your livelihood," so and so forth. Well, the farmer was not affected. He just said, God knows whether it's good or bad. I don't know. And the villagers were like, "Are you mad or something? It is bad. Your only source of income ran away." And but then some days later, the horse came back, and now miraculously he had bought 5 other horses with him of the same breed. So he had made some friends in the jungle and bought them back. Now villagers were happy. They were like, "Oh," they were telling the farmer, "Oh, you're so lucky. Now you have 6 horses." And once again, the farmer was saying, "I don't know. God knows what's good or bad." And again, people were confused. "What do you mean? Isn't it good?" One day, the farmer's son, he fell off the horseback and he broke his leg. Now again, the villagers gathered and were lamenting, "Oh, you had your only son, and now he's lame. You have to work. You are old. Just bad luck." A farmer again said, "God knows, good or bad." And a few days later, the country was drafting every person in the age group of 18 to 30 to fight in a war. And a farmer's son didn't have to go to the war because he was lame. Again, everybody came back and say, "Oh," and everybody's son, whoever went to the war, they all died. But the farmer's son didn't go to the war, so he was alive. So all the villagers again gathered and saying, "Oh, see, your son broke his legs. It was good. He didn't have to go to the war. All our children went. They all died." Again, the farmer said the same thing. God knows, good or bad. So just keep doing your duty to the best of your capacity, not trying to get into these complexities, but just understand these basic facts. What is my duty? What will bring good results? What will not bring good results? And what will bring no results? Just keep that concept and keep moving forward. Otherwise, this concept can be extremely complex. Okay, I'll take a pause here. Any thoughts or any comments on this concept of karma? All clear? Okay, that's
Hare
good.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I just wanted to know that does vikarma done by someone affects someone else also, or becomes the target of that vikarma? Say, for example, in a family, there's a father and he does something bad. Does his son also have to suffer for the actions done by his father?
Yes, that can happen. However, we also have to understand that that's why Krishna is saying it's Gahano Karmano Gati. It's a complex matrix system. If the son is paying for his son has to suffer because of the vikarma of the father, there is also some part of the son's karma that he's also paying back for. Right? It's not that the sun is because the sun is also paying, has to suffer because there were some of his karma that he has to suffer because of, and it is coming through the vikarma of his father. That is why Krishna says that everybody in this, not just Krishna, and even acharyas say that everybody in this world, is serving as an instrument for my purification. Sometimes you'll notice that there are people who do bad to us, and we suffer because of that. And you can always question, why me? I didn't do anything wrong to this person. But in a bigger concept, I'm just paying for my karma, but that karma is coming through another person who is acting as an instrument for me. Okay. So yes, to answer your question, yes, one person can suffer because of somebody else's karma, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't any role of that person who's suffering. He or she also had some karma for which he or she is paying back. So that is why if something wrong happens to us, we should always tell ourselves that I'm suffering from the reactions of my past karma, and this other person who seems to be the cause of my suffering is just an instrument who has been chosen by Krishna to give the results of my past actions. That's the way to look at it. Did that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Then one more question arises here is that, if suppose that person is getting some kind of karma, then how is that he has to, suppose a father is very bad to his child, okay? So we may say that probably it is because of his past life that that son may have done something wrong to his father. But doesn't that father has to, again, like he's repaying, we say that he's repaying. So does not father will accumulate that like karma for doing that kind of action?
Yes, he will. He will. That is why, so as I was saying, right, there is a concept of Daivavad. Yes, there is some superior energy, superior power that is defining what karma will I get, how will I be paid back. But it doesn't mean that I don't have a choice. So yes, so it means that I can be, as I was saying, right, how to say, I'm just thinking of it. So yes, so consequence of my karma will always be there, right? But then how I act upon those will always be a choice that I have. So yes, let's say I have some karma that have come to me because of my past reactions. But then that doesn't mean that I don't have the choice to act upon how I will behave to it. Let's say a son, let's say, for example, he's suffering because of his past karma. And now he can say, oh, this is all my past karma. Let me retort back and, also, start fighting with my father. But that's a choice the son can make, or a choice the son can make, that he can move away also. So yes, the father is surely accumulating more karma by doing that negative effect, but then he also has a choice. Yes, he has been put in a situation, but he doesn't necessarily have to act in that way, that he becomes harsh to his son. He has that choice. So the concept of that my choice is also there, but there is also a Daiva, that's a Daiva Netrena, that is the higher power that is defining it. So my consequences of my action are coming from the higher power, but then the action that I get to do on when I'm in that situation is in my definition, under my control. So yes, it will accumulate more karma, but then I also have a choice not to do that and avoid accumulating more karma. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you. So that means the forgiveness is the best thing that we can do so that we can avoid upcoming karmas, right, Prabhu?
Yes, that's a very good point you bring out, Mazi. Forgiveness. We should be very quick in forgiving others and let go of things, because otherwise this baggage of expectations and baggage of taking revenge or envy, it's very heavy on our heart. we should let go of it for our own spiritual growth, right? I'm not saying for anything else, just for our own spiritual growth, because that's the most important thing for me in my life. I will let go of what others have done to me. I'll forgive them, because if I don't, it'll stay heavy in my heart and it'll affect my bhakti process. Yes, so yes, forgiveness.
So at that point, will that karma cycle will end, Prabhu? If
So,
suppose I have forgiven, and then
yeah.
that person, because maybe from past life or something that's been carried on, then that will put in full stop that karmic reaction which started maybe from previous lives.
For you, yes. Yes. Other person you cannot define, right? You never know how the other person reacts to it. But yes, you have a choice. And if you forgive, it pleases Krishna. And Krishna is like he's the one who's creating this system. So he can also pull you out of it. Right? For me, it's impossible. But if Krishna sees that you are working in a way which is conducive for your spiritual growth, and you want to connect with him, and because of that reason you're forgiving the other person, and so all that thoughts are in your mind, Krishna acknowledges those thoughts, and yes, he puts a stop to the action there.
Thank you. That's a very nice explanation, Prabhu, and it really helped me to understand that karma part very well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and so titikshava is a word that is used for forgiveness, and that is one of the qualities of the, what do you call that, a sadhu. This question, this is in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Titikshava karunika suhirda sarvadehinam. Ajata Shatru. Swat, I forgot. Sorry, I forgot. I can send that verse later on. But this verse, the Titikshava, the forgiveness concept, is the highest quality of a sadhu, of a devotee. Titikshava karunika. So yeah,
that's great to know. Yeah,
yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That clears a lot of things. Thank you.
You're welcome, Anji. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. If nothing else, let's move on to the next verse. This is, where am I? It's 18. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. This is a very cryptic verse Krishna is saying. He's like kind of tickling the minds of intellectuals. This verse needs explanation. So let me go to my slides. And I mentioned this here. So let's look at what Krishna is saying. Karmanai akarmaha yaha pashed. So Krishna is saying, inaction in action. So that's one aspect Krishna is talking about. Inaction in action. And the other thing he's talking about, action in inaction. Okay. So let's first look at inaction in action. So as I was saying, the word akarma can also mean inaction, and also it can also mean, where's my slides? Sorry, I'm going back and forth. So it can mean inaction, and it can also mean action that produces no results. Okay, so that's the word akarma can mean both those things. So keep that in mind. So when we see this first action part, inaction in action, right? So here, the word inaction, which is akarma, means action that produces no results. Okay, this is the second part. So the word inaction, again, let me go to the slides. So the karmani akarma. So the first akarma that is being used in the phrase means activities that lead to no action, right? And that means, and the example I put here is Arjun fighting in Kurukshetra. Because he was fighting for Krishna, he was accumulating zero reaction. Even though there was activity, there was action there. But he's not getting any results for that, because he was acting exactly as Krishna wanted him to act, right? I just put a picture here. So when we are working out in the material world, and if I look at everything as Krishna's, I see other people as part and parcel of Krishna. I genuinely appreciate them. When I go to work, I try my best and then depend on Krishna. So my actions are not resulting in any karmic reaction, right? So even though there is activity, it's physical activity, but then it is a karma, as I said, action that's producing no results. So that's what inaction in action means. Action that I'm doing work, or like all we are doing. That's why this process of devotion is so powerful. But even though while you're doing the same work you were doing earlier, but now there are no results to it because there is dependence on Krishna. We are doing exactly as Krishna is asking us to do. So there is action, but it's not producing any results. That's what the first akarma means. Okay, that's what the first inaction in action means. Now let's look at the second part of the verse. Akarmani cha karmayaha. Now here, the word akarma means no physical activity. So I put a picture of a person meditating there. So there's no physical activity. He's sitting in meditation. It looks as if he's not doing any karma. It looks as if it's akarma. So there's no activity. That's what I mean. So the other meaning of the word akarma is inaction, physical inactivity, no external activity. But then Krishna is saying there is action in that also. Even though it seems like akarma, it seems like inaction, but there is action in there because my mind is not, I've not put myself according to Krishna's philosophy, right? So there is going to be karmic reaction there. So if this person sitting deep in meditation, if his heart is full of envy and pride, even though externally he seems to be having no action, but down deep, it's considered as karma. It's being considered as karma because he will get karmic reaction, even though he's not doing any physical activity, right? And I put an example there. When a king, let's say he's on the pretext of non-violence, if he doesn't punish a murderer, he might seem that I'm doing something pious, but it's not pious because he has been specified a specific duty by Krishna. When he has been put in a position of a king, he has to do that duty. And if he doesn't do it, then he's going to have to suffer for it, even though it seems like he's doing something pious. That's what Arjun wanted to be. He said, oh, I will leave everything and go to the mountains. But Krishna is telling him, even if you go to the mountains, still you will be accumulating karma. And that's what Krishna is elaborating in this verse. He's saying that inaction in action. So Krishna is asking Arjun to keep doing action, but if he does it according to Krishna's orders, then there'll be no resultant karma because of it. What Arjun wants to do is he wants to go to the mountains, and he thinks that there will be no karma there. But Krishna is telling him, no, you will get karma because you were not doing your duties properly. So this is an important verse and a bit confusing also. So just wanted to explain that here. Right? So person might not be doing external activity, but still may get bound. We read that in the third chapter. Karmendriya sanyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachar sauchyate. Came in the beginning of the third chapter. That even though you might be doing no activity, but it still might be criminally culpable, right? In case of doctors, if there is a patient and doctor says, oh, no, I will not, by doing activity, I get involved in karma, I will not do this activity. I will not open up this patient to cure him. So that will be guilt. He can be charged for negligence. So inactivity is always not beneficial. That's something to understand. Not doing external activity alone doesn't mean that I will not be bound. I will still have karma. So the call of this verse is to go beyond the external and the superficial and look within. That in my mental strata, am I doing karma or not? Don't judge based on the physical activity. Right? There is a story in the Srimad Bhagavatam about this. Prabhupada says, Nirga, yes, Nirga. There was a king Nirga, and he was a very pious king. He did a very big yagya, and he was giving cows, thousands of cows to the brahmanas who had come. And what happened that when one of the brahmana was walking away with his cows, one of his cows just strayed away into the lot of the other brahmana. And now both the brahmanas started fighting. One said that, oh, the king gave it to me. And the other said, no, no, this is my cow. This is not the one that king gave it to you. And they both started fighting. And they both went to the king. And the king was not sure how to resolve this issue. And he said, why don't you take another cow? I'll give you another 1,000 cows to the brahmana whose cow had walked away. But the brahmana said, no, I want my cow back. And because of that one activity, Nirga had to pay for it. In his next life, he became a lizard. And but he got Krishna's mercy that he was in a well, and then Krishna pulled him out, and because of Krishna's touch, he got liberated. But Srimad Bhagavatam explains that how, even though the king was not responsible, he was not at fault, if you look at it superficially, but still he had to pay for his karma. So that is why Krishna says it's a very complex activity, and we shouldn't pay attention to just the external part. We should be also looking at the internal mentality. And that's just one example I gave. It doesn't necessarily mean that Nirga was doing something wrong, but just wanted to clarify that externally we have to be cautious, that not just depend on the external aspect. We also have to depend on the internal part. Okay, so that's this part, okay? And the Prabhupada in the purport says a very good thing, kind of just summarizing this whole part. Let me go there. Sorry, my battery is about to die. I have to find a chart. So Prabhupada says here, the sense of eternal servitorship to Krishna makes one immune to all sorts of reactionary elements of work. Okay, that's an important part here. So what Prabhupada is saying, that yes, the whole concept of karma, akarma, it's very, very complex. But if we, in the process of bhakti, depend fully on Krishna, then we are immune to all sorts of reactions. We are immune to all sorts of reactions. That's the beauty of the process of bhakti. I don't have to individually look at each and every karma. Oh, is this the right karma? Will this bring me reactions? So no, we don't have to worry about that. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. Just depend on Krishna, and that Krishna will take care of everything. Avashya Rakshibe Krishna Vishwasha Palana. A very important concept. This comes from Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives this. Mahaprabhu talks about it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. That dependence on Krishna is a very, very important aspect of our bhakti. We understand that Krishna will take care of everything. I don't have to worry about individual results and actions and activity. Right? So this is the karma and akarma here. Was this verse clear? Because this is one of the most confusing verses in Bhagavad Gita. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu, very nicely explained.
Thank you. Okay, that's good. It's clear to all of you. Because the words can be very confusing when it comes to here in this part. So yes, so Prabhupada, as I was saying, right, he's saying that servitorship to Krishna will make us immune, right? So if we just continue to do our dutiful, detached, connected activity, right, then our intelligence gets fortified. We develop vivek, discrimination. Atma Gyan develops. And then we are free from the results of our actions. We don't get any negative reactions. We don't get any action at all. When we do our duties, if we are dutiful, we're detached and connected to Krishna, dependent on Krishna. Then Atma Gyan develops. Okay, so that's 18. Let's move on to the next verse. 19. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification, He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. Right? So Krishna is mentioning here that every endeavor in this world that is fueled by a material desire. Okay, as we all know, there's a desire behind it. Right? So we all have been given we have been given four potencies by Krishna. Right? We have a power of desire, Ichha Shakti. We have the power of knowledge, Jnana Shakti. We have Bala Shakti, that we have some empowerment to do things. And fourth is Kriya Shakti, power to act. Okay. So by these potencies that have been given to us by Krishna, we can fuel our material desire, right? Or on the other part, as Krishna is saying, that we can, by full knowledge of these potencies that have been given to us, we can be also free from all these desires for sense gratification. So knowledge is the key here, Krishna is highlighting. And that knowledge, it fortifies our intelligence, it burns up our reactions to work. And Prabhupada explains this in the purport that only a person in full Krishna conscious, in full knowledge, can understand the activities of a person in Krishna consciousness. So it's not easy to understand the activities of Krishna consciousness, how to move it. So only a person in full knowledge can be Krishna conscious person. That's a Krishna conscious person. And that only comes through dependence on Krishna. Prabhupada is saying in the end that development of this knowledge of eternal servitorship to the Lord is compared to this fire. When I fully understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yoveti Tatvataha, in the 9th verse we read that we are Janman Karma. If we understand Krishna in truth, then that knowledge of Krishna will serve as a fire, and that fire will burn up all our reactions to work. Right? So that's being explained here by Krishna. Right? So consider that karma that we talked about, right? Different types of results, right? Prarabdha, prarabdha, kutam, bijam, kranvan. I think it was in this chapter. Let me see if there's slide. Where's that slide? Oh, it is not here. Sorry. It was in 3rd chapter. I think we went into the details of the kutam, bijam, all those 5. Okay. Yeah. So there are different karmas, phalas, right? Kutam, bijam, prarabdha, aprarabdha. But all of that can be burnt away by service to Krishna. By that fire of knowledge, that seed of the karma will be burnt. Right? And in this word, so there are two words being used here in this verse. Krishna is using Pandita and also Buddha. So the word Pandita means the learned, and Buddha also has a similar meaning, those who know. Okay, so two similar words are being used here. And so Buddha means the enlightened one. Okay, the opposite of Buddha is Mudha, which means ignorant. So who is Buddha? One who does not, it's not the one who renounces action. We just read that, right? Giving up physical activities doesn't mean the person becomes enlightened, but we have to clean our mental and internal atmosphere. So we have to renounce selfishness. We have to surrender to Krishna. That person is Buddha. So there are two words being used, Pandita and Buddha. And the reason for using two words, similar words here, is that Krishna is telling that Arjun, that people who have superficial vision, who are not so bright, will see a person acting and they'll think that this person is bound, right? But a Buddha can see that the person, even though he is acting, but that action is not selfishly motivated, it's full Krishna consciousness, then that person is not being bound by karma. So there is a call for us to seek a higher motivation, right? So So a person who's working in that higher motivation is considered Buddha by the Panditas. So wise persons consider such person as intelligent. That's why two similar words are being used here. So, a Pandita, a wise person, will see persons who are acting selflessly, who are acting in Krishna consciousness, as Buddha, as intelligent, and so that's why these two words are being used, similar words being used here in this verse. So understanding that our when we have this full knowledge of this concept of karma and vikarma, and that how we come to the position of a karma by surrendering to Krishna, then all our desires will go away for sense gratification, because we'll depend on Krishna for everything. That there will be not for me, everything for Krishna's sake. Prabhupada is a living example of that for us. That Prabhupada was fully dependent on Krishna. When in India, Prabhupada started the League of Devotees in Jhansi, and it failed. So Prabhupada was acting upon his order of his spiritual master, to preach the concept of Krishna consciousness all over the world. And Prabhupada knew that to do that, he needed to have an organization. He needed to have an organizational body on which people could come and connect with. That's why he started something, a League of Devotees in Jhansi. But then that didn't work either. That failed. But then Prabhupada didn't give up. So somebody would say that, he was doing physical activity. No, there was no karma for him there, because he was fully dependent on Krishna. Then he came to US and he started ISKCON. And then many parents used to come to Prabhupada, and they would be very angry with him that you have taken away our young children, and their bright future is gone. Now you have made them into sannyasis and devotees. So it's not like Prabhupada used to get he had to suffer because of that the parents were angry on him, or he was supposedly disturbing them. No, because he was doing everything for Krishna consciousness. So for such a person, he's a Buddha. He's perfect. So that's what it means. The full knowledge. Prabhupada had the full knowledge, and so there was no desire for sense gratification. So all the reactions of his karma were burnt off. That's the state of a pure devotee. Okay, anything from anyone? Any thoughts, comments, concerns before I move on to the next verse?
Am I muted?
I can hear you now, Prabhu.
Now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. And trying to decipher it, I see just certain things you've said, like one who sees, okay? One who sees. And then I can see what you're saying here. And as I try diving into it, I see that it's very complex. So many actions and actions and actions and reactions and reactions to this activity and that activity. I can see that. But in understanding and seeing the complexity, I want to really avoid it. I mean, it's Krishna is explaining it and exposing it, but it makes me want to run from it. It makes me want to, it makes me want to say, well, if this is the way, I mean, like you were saying, that man, every time he said, this Krishna knows what's best. Krishna knows what's best. When everyone's analyze it, like me, I don't want to analyze it. I want to run away from it all. And I just want to run to the feet of each Srila Prabhupada or the Mahajan and just do what they do. Whether it appears like daytime, nighttime, good time, bad times, upside down on left side or right. As long as I can weather the storm attached to Krishna's lotus feet and do what Prabhupada says, is that okay for me? Or do I really have to get a super grasp on this karma so I can teach it to others and elevate them that way? I mean, what is my position with this karma?
So Prabhu, we don't have to understand them. If I have to answer you in a straightforward way, we don't have to understand them. But as you also added towards the end, we also should know we should know what it means. That is why Krishna is saying, we read that verse right before that. Shouldn't was there. Just a minute. 16, I think. Sorry. Yes. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action, what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. So in one sense, Krishna is asking Arjun to know that. Okay, what is karma? You should know that. But then but then further on, he's also saying that it's very complex. It's very hard to understand. And then in the 18th verse, again, he's saying that action in action. But then in 19th, he's saying that want to be understood in full endeavor, whose every endeavor is devoid of sense gratification. So that person who was in full consciousness of Krishna, he doesn't have to worry about this, right? So for such a person, like I gave you example of Prabhupada. Prabhupada didn't have to worry what is right, what is wrong, because he was doing everything for Krishna's service, and he was 100% following Prabhupada. So for us, we should have some basic understanding of what is karma and vikarma, right? If somebody doesn't come and tell us that, meat eating is not appropriate and how it affects our karmic cycle reactions, if you're not able to explain that to somebody, then it's this kind of you're not doing your job perfectly in one sense, right? For that purpose, you should know it. But a devotee down deep in his heart, he knows that I'm going to depend on Krishna for everything. So he or she is not worried about these reactions. But as you were saying, to tell it to others, you should have a basic understanding of this process of karma and vikarma, which I think we all have. We don't necessarily have to strive harder or heavier to understand it. But the basic knowledge, yes, should be there.
And is this a situation just like when you start out dealing with the Vedas and they just take you all through different trips in life, and finally you get to the end of it and you say, man, all that stuff that I was tripping on wasn't even necessary, because all I had to do was be eternal servant of the Lord and wake up to that position. But somehow I was trapped in another zone, and I didn't perceive it. And when I look back on it, it looks like, wow, because like the action and inaction, it seems like a play on words, but it's not really. It's very easy for me to understand that in its definition. But I'm seeing that so many things, they're like clouds of situations that seem are there, and I should be able to perceive them and deal with them. But in reality, I have one ultimate goal, to the lack of my supremacy and acute intensity, I have no position to see my limited ability. And in that limited perspective, all I can do is grasp for the lotus feet of the spiritual master, and can be a problem. But I mean, at the same time, the whole solution here is, again, devotional service. It's like the vaccine that frees you from it. You might be saying, oh, well, I got the vaccine. Yeah, well, now I'm in the material world and I'm suffering, but it got minimized because my vaccine is there.
That's a good example you bring out, Prabhu. Yes. So basic knowledge of COVID, that we all had to have that. Okay, wash your hands properly, how COVID transmits. But at the end of the day, when you take the vaccine, everything becomes immaterial, right? Okay, now I've taken the vaccine. Yes, I had knowledge about how COVID spreads and all that, But then the more important part was the vaccine, which is, as you're saying, devotional service. So devotional service gives us that, it brings that ultimate freedom from karmic entanglement, right? Yes.
Yeah, it trumps everything.
Yeah, it trumps everything. Yeah, you're right to put it that way. Yes. And if I just give you some very basic ways, right? So devotional service, it helps us in 4 ways in this, all these concepts of karma and vikarma and all that. First thing, when we practice devotional service, the Lord sitting in our heart, Krishna, he gives us the discrimination, vivek. There is a vivek in word Sanskrit, it's called vivek, discrimination, right? All of us has this voice of conscience. Don't do this, do that. And that becomes stronger when we practice devotional service. Okay, right? So was it Sarvasya? No, Krishna says that in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate, that I'm sitting in everybody's heart. Iti matva bhajante ma buddha bhava samanvita. Whoever knows this, then he, I think I'm quoting the wrong verse. It's 10.10 that I want to quote. Tesham sadata yuktanam bhajati priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupiyanti te. That when somebody approaches me with love, then I give him the knowledge by which he moves further in his path. So yes, that's the first aspect that comes when first gift that we get from devotional service, discrimination of right and wrong. But yes, it's coming from Krishna. And then there's a minimization of sinful reactions also in bhakti, when we practice bhakti. Because as I was saying, only Krishna can remove our karma. I cannot do it, anybody else cannot do it. Only Krishna can do it. Spiritual master on behalf of Krishna can take away our karma. So there is a minimization of sinful reactions also when I engage in bhakti, right? There was once what happened, one of Prabhupada's disciples, he was cutting vegetables and he cut his finger. And he asked Prabhupada, why did his finger got cut, even though he was cutting it for vegetables for Krishna? Prabhupada told him that his neck was supposed to be cut, but since he became a devotee, the Lord only gave him a token reaction. So there is a minimization of sinful reactions also. And then last but not the least, we get the inner strength to face suffering when we practice bhakti, right? Whatever residual karma that comes upon us, devotional service grants us the strength to tolerate that suffering, right? One of the names of Krishna is Karunanidhi, is a reservoir of compassion. Right? Just like, our acharyas give this example that when a child is going to a school, the mother knows, okay, today my child is going to get a beating because he has not done his homework. So a mother cannot stop that from happening, because that's, but then what can the mother do is, the mother can give a very thick glove to the child so that when the teacher beats with a stick on the child's palm, the child doesn't feel that pain. The suffering doesn't happen. So similarly, when a devotee is supposed to get suffering because of my misdeeds, Krishna, who's like a mother, has given us these, holy name chanting, by which we develop the strength to tolerate it. So what I just wanted to bring out with these points is that we get freedom from karmic entanglement by doing bhakti. And how do we get that? I just wanted to give you some more details. How does that happen? Discrimination of right and wrong, minimization of sinful reactions, inner strength to face suffering. And then it also gives us determination to follow the right path and to avoid the wrong path. But yes, it's all coming from Krishna. It's not coming from anywhere else.
And so that beauty of individuality, that in the utilization of your individuality, everything can become perfect if it's aligned with. This is, like utilizing your individuality properly through devotional service. And then these things that you just described show, the power of proper individuality when properly placed. Your thinking becomes clear. It becomes an automatic action. Pure, and it's based on guidance. I mean, this is very amazing, because it's comforting to know that in the hands of this program, that it's the absolute perfection. And the main thing is that, once you've crossed the line and you're going back in on the platform and you're going back home, it's over at that point. It's really over if you can just, you just got to hold your breath, come up, and you're in, Goloka Vrindavan.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very beautiful. And so then it becomes, like you were saying, these different points you were saying, that's your internality.
Yeah.
Externally, we've got something going on, but really internally, you really want to be in Radhakund and take a dip and see this. Well, that means internally you have to be so developed that will manifest. And so we're on the path through Prabhupada's guidance. Internally, everything's going to result in the highest result, which is vision and alignment with Krishna's lotus. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
I was getting scared though, because I didn't want to go too deep into this karma.
Oh yeah, we don't have to go deep in there.
And I didn't have to. So I was real thankful how you handled this. I mean, Krishna walks us back out of it. He showed us, but then he said, if you see this, seeing, that's so important. I saw it, and I want to get away from it. But at the same time, I can say that,
I lost you there.
That you're not doing any action, but really that's action. Because by not,
I lost you, Prabhu. Can't hear you.
Oh, yeah. I said that. I was just saying that, if I saw someone doing inaction, I would say, you think you're doing inaction, but you're actually doing action, because by not doing the right thing, you're still doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It seems like a play on words, but it's not.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, I think you summarized it well. We don't have to worry about all these details. That's why Krishna is just giving us a basic understanding. Akarma, karma, and vikarma. That is why Prabhupada gave us those 4 basic regulatory principles. He didn't give us like, there are 100 rules we have to follow, otherwise you're going to hell. He just said, follow these 4 basic principles. But he had to create a framework for us. Otherwise, we would have been fools. I'm a fool, right? He had to give a basic framework. But then it was just a basic framework. It was not as if a detailed framework. Okay, this is the way you should sit. Because if you go into scriptures, as you were saying, Vedas, they will give you thousands and thousands of confusing ways. This is not the way to sit in the temple. This is the way to talk to a devotee. This is the way you should behave after you have eaten your food, and so on and so forth. It's very confusing. That's why Prabhupada gave us some very basic facts. He says, follow these, you chant, and Krishna will take care of you. Forget about all the other things. Everything will automatically manifest in your heart. That discrimination, determination, minimization of sinful reactions, inner strength, all that will come automatically. You don't have to worry about it. But just know the basics. Just know the basics. That's what Krishna is doing. That's what Prabhupada did for us. Yeah.
Yeah, real nice.
Yeah.
I can't wait to turn the page.
Yeah.
But no, it was very comforting though. And like Mataji was saying, when someone can give you some illumination to this, it's very comforting, and I'm comforted, and thank you for your patience.
That is why for us, we all, Radharani for us, right? I was saying Radha Dasyam, looking for Radharani's mercy, because Radharani's mercy personified. And we get it through the Guru Parampara. That is why, depending on our Guru, following the orders of our Guru, Acharyas, spiritual master, Prabhupada, all the Acharyas, everything works out fine. You don't have to worry about anything. Sufferings, whatever is coming is Krishna's mercy, is his benevolent plan. We just depend on Krishna, follow the orders of the spiritual master, and everything is going to be fine. That's the beauty of this whole process. The Acharyas have taught this to us. Prabhupada has taught this to us. We don't have to worry about anything else. So just makes it very, very simple for us. But the dependence of Krishna has to be there, understanding that he's going to take care of me.
Yeah, and that's why Prabhupada keeps using this word that's all encompassing. When he says Krishna consciousness,
yeah,
if you stay in that umbrella, then you trump, just like in that sentence that you left standing here, all kinds of sense gratification. And that is such a nightmare, that word and that whole thing there, because that's all I am, is a bundle of senses.
yeah.
So what can I do? I just have to do one thing: stay in this Krishna consciousness. We're continuously, I mean, Prabhupada sticks that in there, and anyone who's envious of Krishna hates this Bhagavad Gita. Well, no, doesn't hate the Bhagavad Gita. They hate Prabhupada for what he did.
Yeah.
Because he exposes their enviousness of him, because one wants to engage in sense activities. So this Krishna consciousness, he puts it everywhere. You showed that when I was trying to see who Vishnu was. And then Prabhupada always would say, he took it a step, but if you're Krishna conscious, everything is fine. And so then we can see that in every one of these angles, Krishna consciousness is the all-encompassing umbrella for protecting us on this path.
Yeah, Krishna consciousness is the all. Yes, that is why the essence of this process is devotional service with full faith in Krishna, and everything works out for us. We don't have to worry about anything. Krishna will take care of everything.
And that's what Krishna said. If you know me, that's Krishna consciousness. If you finally find me through everything and I'm here, forget it all. I'm it.
Yep,
That's
I'm it.
Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, that's what he says in the last verse of Bhagavad Gita towards the end, right? Saradharman Parita. Forget about everything. Forget about karma, vikarma. Forget about jnana yoga, dhyana yoga. Forget about everything. You just surrender to me. I'll take care of everything. Ma shucha. Nothing to fear. Yeah.
But you can't do that artificially, and you can't do that speculatively. It has to be done under the proper guidance, so that its consciousness is really Krishna consciousness, nothing else.
Yeah, nothing else. Yes, that's why we have to do it under the guidance of pure devotees, acharyas, Prabhupada, Guru. And then those changes start happening. We can start developing discrimination, determination. Our sinful reactions get minimized. Internal strength develops. We get that unsinkable ship. Storms will also always be there, but my ship becomes unsinkable. That is why we should never pray for an unsinkable, for a stormless sea. We should always pray for an insinkable ship, which will only happen by depending on Krishna. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for
Thank you for your mercy. Nitai-gauranga.
Nitai-gauranga. Okay, we are at 8:31. We'll wrap up. We'll get back next week. Hopefully, I should be able to do it next week also. Thank you very much, everyone.
Nitai. Haribo.